rescue anybody in foreclosure. I was a small town mayor at the time, and we had over 100 houses in foreclosure, and anybody that lives in this district knows there are many houses that are still empty. We have not addressed the foreclosure problem and the amount of people who are each at one paycheck away from losing their homes. Many people we know. Others, it's irresponsible for people to leave these people homeless and to leave these real estate properties fallow. The idea was to rescue people who were in trouble with foreclosures. That's what our federal dollars were supposed to do, and they were spent building new banks. People did not get money to rescue their homes. It's about time we stood up and solved that problem.
Thank you. I'm reminded that if any of you still have questions you would like to write out, would you please raise your hand and they will come and collect them. Okay, moving right along. I'm going to start with you on this next one, Mr. Coppola. Why do you think the Republicans have not voted to override the governor's veto?
Why they didn't vote to override the governor's veto on what?
I believe what they're referring to is the Port Authority.
I don't know. I wasn't, that's up to the people who vote independently why they didn't do it. I mean, obviously we can be cynical about stuff, but, they didn't vote to override. That's on their conscience. That's what they thought was the best thing to do. So, I wasn't in the room. I'm not in their head.
Okay. Mr. Lagana, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I can tell you exactly why they didn't vote to override the vetoes, because they were told not to. And that's the power that the governor has over the Republican caucus. And, I think there's been 50 attempts on not partisan legislation. It's been bipartisan legislation many times. Recently, a gun bill that is good legislation that's meant to keep guns out of the hands of the mentally ill. And the governor didn't like it. And what we've seen since his presidential aspirations is that he's more likely to do what's good for people in the Midwest and elsewhere than he is for people in New Jersey. And he's done that time and time again. And the Republican legislature will not at all go against the governor's wishes. We talked about transparency earlier. There was a bipartisan legislation, again with Republican co-sponsors, meant to create transparency in the budget process. Excellent piece of legislation, vetoed by the governor last minute, and the issue was that it could potentially open up the state to litigation. Meanwhile, a dozen other states in the nation have the similar legislation. So it just goes to show you that when the governor puts his thumb down, that the Republicans in the legislature listen.
Mr. Eustace, can you add to that?
Just briefly, I think that everyone who runs for public office does it for the right reasons. I think that they get caught in a conundrum once they realize they're in elected office, that they get threatened if they don't vote the way they're told to vote. I have to say that Assemblyman Lagana and I are not party-line voters. We stand up for our constituencies, and sometimes that gets us in trouble, but it's worth it to stand up. And often we find ourselves with our colleagues who represent similar towns saying, what are you doing? And they will co-sponsor bills with us, including the gun legislation, the Port Authority legislation, the budget legislation. They stand with us. And again, they make it through committee, and they make it through both houses, and they're voted through. And then, when the governor vetoes it, the whole thing changes. I mean, when we go door to door, and Joe and I collectively have knocked on 8,000 doors this time, people tell us that they want sensible gun legislation. Most of the people in this area want sensible gun legislation. We put a bill together that asks that you have your picture on your gun purchase ID card. Didn't think it was a heavy lift, didn't think it was controversial, made it through and got vetoed. This time, this bill says criminals cannot get guns, and the mentally ill cannot get guns. It passed through committee, it passed through the houses, it was vetoed by the governor. You would think at some point, people would say, I'm going to represent the people of New Jersey and pass this gun legislation. It requires a veto. Did it happen? It did not. One of the prime sponsors did not vote for the override. It's frightening.
Thank you. Mr. Coppola.
Yes.
Oh, yes, we've done it.
Do it again.
I would like to start with you then, Mr. Eustace, with a third question. And New Jersey's energy needs are expanding. What is your plan to meet the increasing energy requirements in our state? And you gotta do this in 2 minutes.
I'll give it a shot. I like to think I have a reputation of being sort of an environmental wacko, and I wear that badge proudly. As I said, I drive an electric vehicle. I have solar power on my home. I think that renewables are vitally important in New Jersey, and at one point we led the nation in renewables. We fell behind because our governor does not support green legislation. The other thing is, we could have been the first in the nation to have windmills generating power off our shores. We can still do that. But the governor has impaneled the BPU with people that are obstructing the idea that renewables should be our future. Fossil fuels, although we still use them on a regular basis, have a timeline. It is important that we get out in front of it so that, and what I mean by renewables are solar and wind power and geothermal power and wave power, all things being used all around the world. And again, we were ahead of the curve. We were ahead of the curve until this governor arrived. Let's step up and make sure we're there. It is inexpensive to do solar power on your home, and it doesn't stink. So why not move ahead? The idea behind wind power off the shore is unbelievably attractive. It will generate enough power to take us off so much of the coal grid. We're very lucky that we don't generate much of our electricity with coal as much because of the price of natural gas. But still, fossil fuels have a timeline. It's time to move forward with renewables.
Mr. Coppola, can you address energy needs and how can we meet the increasing requirements in our state?
Yes, thank you. Look, no doubt, I mean, the future is in renewables, wind, solar, geothermal. These are things that are slowly happening, but we have to be careful how we segue. You know, I know it's, you know, and me too. I mean, I'm very conscious of, you know, if I can walk or have an economy car, and I'm all about, you know, everything, recycling. I too, you know, really respect, and we have to take care of this planet that we're on and do our part. But we have to be careful to demonize and say, well, coal and oil, of course, you know, that will be addressed, but we can't just put the axe to it. There's a lot of collateral damage that will come if we act too quick, too soon, and you know, it's going to kill a lot of jobs, and it has been. And I'm not saying that we have to be on coal and oil forever, but it has to be a gentle segue. And I also believe in, you know, look, we don't need Big Brother to always come down and push this. I think that's where I have, again, a problem with when, you know, the government is going to mandate what light bulbs we put in our home and, you know, what we can buy. But there has to, this is America, you know, we're a free country. There has to be some free market, and when you're told you can't use a certain light bulb, listen, I use LED light bulbs in my house by myself. That's what I want to do. But give us the choice. Give us the choice to do this. And in time, through natural means, wind and solar, geothermal, even natural gas and nuclear, safe nuclear, I know it might be taboo, but these are things that are coming online and they're slowly taking part. So we really have to be careful, like I said, how we come off of the old fossil fuels, coal and oil, etc. Thank you.
Mr. Lagana, your thoughts?
Yes, in 2009, a federal program called the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative was developed by the federal government meant for our region, which has extremely high regional greenhouse gas emissions. And the intent of the program was for participating states, they would receive federal dollars and in turn would agree to cutting the greenhouse gas emissions, which we know, although some people don't believe it, we know does cause climate change. We were in it in 2009 and 2011. The governor saw fit to remove us from the initiative. I will tell you that the state has passed up $114 million in potential revenue since 2011. By 2020, New Jersey is going to miss out on another $387 million in potential revenue. And not only that, not only the money, we're all talking about the environment, of course, and in the participating states, since it launched in 2009, it has helped cut electricity prices by 8% in these 9 states, unlocking more than $1.8 billion in long-term savings on energy bills. So we're talking about real money here, a program that was meant to benefit the Northeast, and a lot of the pollution, believe it or not, doesn't even come from this area. A lot of it comes down from the Midwest and the coal miners, who the governor appears to want to support more than New Jersey residents. But we're losing out on millions and millions and millions of dollars, which are used towards real budgetary and revenue towards the state. So I sponsored the legislation along with Assemblyman Eustace for us, a resolution for us to get back into this program. It passed the Assembly, but of course, I don't believe it on the other side. So.
Thank you. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Capola, on the next question, and that is, should New Jersey grant undocumented immigrants driver's licenses? Why or why not?
Okay. My parents are immigrants from Italy. My wife is an immigrant from Korea. I speak fluent Spanish, Italian, basic Korean. So.
Excuse me, sir, could you speak into the mic?
Oh, sure. Is that better?
Yes.
Take two. So, I come from a family of Italian immigrants, and my wife is an immigrant from Korea. Immigration is the lifeblood of this country. You know, like I said, I speak fluent Spanish, Italian, and basic Korean, so and I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of being an immigrant son. Now, we have laws in this country, and I believe everyone can come in, but in an orderly, timely fashion through our laws. We have to respect our laws. When we start to deviate from that, there's a slippery slope. And again, I come from an immigrant family, my wife's an immigrant. We need immigrants. This is what makes this country great. There has to be, when we say, abiding by our laws, I'm just saying, let's follow our laws and everyone can come.